St. Lucia, this is Openmike, and we are right back. We have just concluded the first segment of our program. The second segment of the program we're going to deal with is a segment which allows St. Lucians, gives St. Lucians, should I say, the option of planning the way forward. Because without your, should I say, approval, there will always be some difficulties. Now, there are areas in St. Lucia which are being reviewed at this time for underground water. And WASCO has been talking to certain individuals. The chances so far appear promising. And I'm very, very clear on that, appear promising. And if so, this would be something called brackish water, which is far easier to desalinate versus salt water. So hopefully this can be addressed. Vince, would you like to just touch on that a bit, please?
Yes, and I will also bring it in the context of the composition of water that we must have going into the future. And the dam. I have to come back and fully answer your question with respect to where we are with the John Compton Dam. But with respect to what is happening currently, let me just indicate that a very recent report that was prepared for the Caribbean Development Bank, 2013 by Coal Engineering, indicated that water resources in the region, renewable water resources in the region from surface water, has gone down by nearly 50%.
Why?
What it really means is that over the years, we have not paid attention to our water resource. And we have cut down the trees. We have gone into the forests. We have denuded the forests.
Got you.
We have affected the rivers as a consequence. So you find today the kind of flows that we used to have many, many years ago
no longer
in
exist.
Rivers, they no longer exist.
Wow.
But along with that, while this was happening, there were not enough provisions made to enable us to hold water at the same time. So you find that the trees were coming down, people were encroaching, getting into the forest. They were doing a lot of farming. They were beginning to build homes deeper and deeper into the forested areas, bring livestock and pig farms and all of those things. And as a consequence, we had to be moving our intakes up and up. And as you move your intakes upriver, you are actually extracting less water.
That goes
precisely. And then when it rains, you have a lot of water, but you can't hold. Yes, it just runs off and so on. And then when you have a small drought, then you have a problem.
Got you.
So
of course, you have more building going on. You have more hotels going up, and your consumption is increasing.
And you have all of this. And on top of that now, because of the way development is unfolding, you have sources of water, traditional sources of water, not necessarily under WASCO's control, being contaminated now because of houses going up with septic tanks in some areas, and the septic tanks are in catchment areas, and they're leaching into spring sources, and then they're coming out in the spring sources with results that are showing that there are coliforms in it, which is an indication of fecal contamination. And once you're getting that, then you know you have a problem. So it's a lot of that is going on now. These are the challenges today that we are faced with water.
But when that happens, all the water does go through a treatment plant. So that means the treatment plant has to be working overtime.
Yes, well, the treatment, and remember I make the point, not all the water that people get in St. Lucia are actually being treated.
Is that right?
WASCO is treating what is under WASCO's control. But there are some sources of water that are not under WASCO's control.
For example?
Spring sources. In lots of areas where people are actually abstracting water from spring sources and they're supplying themselves. Now, these are not, yes, in some communities.
Is that fairly prevalent on the island?
Well, there are about 31 springs in St. Lucia, and there's a report on this. Yes.
In what areas mainly?
Well, right around St. Lucia, mainly in the rural areas. You know,
well, I know, for instance, down at Tikai, for instance, I think all his water comes from the spring water.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
but not all the springs are bad. But then, if you look at the complexion of the 30-something springs, you have about a third of them being nearly not good at all.
Wow.
You have another third that is in between, and you have just a third that is actually good.
So, what kind of measures can the government take because that's not nice?
Well, in a number of areas, improvements have been made. For example, the development in Vieux Fort with the new water system
Yes.
that's going to come on board by, let us say, 2016, 2017, thereabout.
Yeah.
That is going to deal with the whole of the Viewfort and Library area.
Now, highlight a bit for me. When you say the new water system, what's happening in Viewfort?
Well, there is a water development project that's going on in Viewfort now, where a new plant is going to be built, a new intake is also going to be built.
Is that at Woodlands? No?
Well, it's going to be on the Beauséjour River.
Okay, good.
That, yes, and it's going to come from that catchment area. And this new facility is supposed to produce about 4.8 million gallons of water a day, to take into consideration for the next 20-25 years, projected to take into consideration the projected developments that may take place in the Viewfort Library area, which would probably include maybe 3 hotels, will include other developments and so on. So all of that is
And Wasco is the one doing that?
Well, the government of St. Lucia is
that.
doing that. The CDB is financing it,
Okay.
and Wasco is involved.
Got you.
Yeah.
What kind of money are you talking for that project?
I think that project is earmarked probably to cost about $22 million.
22 million. And has already started?
It has already started.
And how
not on the ground,
Yes,
so you're
I
not going
know.
to see
On
anything on the
paper,
ground.
yeah.
But there's a lot of work. You know, when these things
You have to do the feasibility.
Precisely. So
Right.
that is the stage at which
Okay,
it's, and the
right.
Germans are also involved in financing too.
And
yes.
that should be completed by 2017.
Well, by 2017, you should have, probably by 2017, it should be
ready for distribution,
2016,
hopefully.
2017, yeah.
But that's good news. Is it the German people you mentioned, are they the same people who proposed about the water tanks up north?
Yes,
Or
well, there
yeah.
is the German International Development
Okay,
Agency.
uh-huh.
So everything you do with the Germans are going through that agency.
I got you.
So it is that agency that is always in the picture. So it's the same agency.
Okay.
We call them the GIZ. It's the same agency.
Well, that's very good news because Germans are very competent people and they always watch how their money is dispersed. So that's a plus. That's very good news, yes. Yeah. And now at that meeting which you had at Palm Haven, you also mentioned that they were willing to contribute, I think it was 200,000 euros.
That's correct.
If they could get matching funds.
That's correct.
I did pose a question to you at that meeting, and I still feel rather strongly that we as a people in St. Lucia, the Hotel Association, all of us need to get together because 200,000 euros is not an awful lot of money. And if we can match that now and we can set it going, it could set a precedent for further developments. What do you think about that?
Yes, indeed. In fact, the Germans, their whole approach to this is they want to work with the private sector. Right. And they have identified, in that instance, they have identified the hotel association, they have identified the hotel sector to work with. And they have proposed to the hotel sector that they are prepared to put in 200,000 euros to be matched by the SLHT, if I may just say so, as an umbrella body, to be matched by them in order to be able to
start the project.
Yeah, to start the project, establish some
And I suppose if the hotels did it,
Naturally,
the ideal place would probably be up north initially.
Yes.
And you know, Vincent, this is something I have said time and time again for the last few years, even before the Germans came in, that we need to have some tanks up north. Because when a hurricane comes, there's always some form of disruption. And you know, we are down your throat, you know, if not you, your predecessors, clamoring for water. We cannot run our hotels without water. And it's just plain common sense that if we had a couple 100 million gallons stored up north, we could give you a break of a week, a breathing spell to get your work done. So besides the business sector, the hoteliers and the Germans, I really would like to see Wasco getting involved to try to push that program. Now, one cost question on as far as tanks are concerned, the ideal way would be probably to place it on a hill so you can gravity feed.
That's right.
But in the absence of placing it on a hilltop because of land, who owns the land, they may not want a water tank on their land. If it were on the flat, since the pipes are already passing along the road on the way to the hotels, is there any way at all that a valve could be placed before the pipes get to the tank, which can be shut off, and by the same token, use the power from the pumps from Wasco to drive that water to the hotels?
I think lots of things are possible, and I'm sure the engineers are going to see how best to do it. I think it is possible.
Yeah.
It is just going to be design.
Yeah.
And the best design is what we're going to come up with.
Yeah.
Because it is in the interest of the sector, which is the economy of St. Lucia.
Yes.
And I make that point very strongly. It is in the interest of the sector and the economy of St. Lucia. It is in WASCO's interest. It is in the interest of St. Lucia as a whole to, to make this a reality. And I think the Germans are
also
involved.
looking at
the SLHTA is considering it. WASCO is involved in the process too. So hopefully it's going to happen at some point, and it's going to be beneficial to all parties.
Yeah. Going back to the situation of water up north.
Yes.
What's the name of the company you said that's here doing the explorations?
Well, WASCO has, over the years, maybe before my time and even now, thinking ahead, and we have asked to get a master plan going in order to determine precisely what we need to do in the coming years. But it is important for us to begin to think of what combination of sources of water that we are going to require for our future.
Okay.
It will have to be a certain percentage of surface water, groundwater, and desal water.
Okay.
The ratios we don't know yet, but the study is going to determine the ratios based on demand and based on a number of other factors, based on how climate change and all of those issues that are around us. Desal currently is something that is being discussed. Desal. The biggest reservoir is really the sea. It's all around us.
Yes.
It's always there, so there's always water.
Correct.
The problem is to abstract this water, process it at a cost that you can sell it to the public, and the public will be
Willing
able
to pay.
willing to pay.
Yeah.
This is not foreign because it's already happening in the region, in Antigua, in Anguilla,
Bahamas.
in the Bahamas, in the Cayman Islands. In all of those countries, it's already happening. And if you look at the statistics, the cost of water also in those countries is highest. Because, of course, this
naturally
is
you're
expensive.
talking electricity.
But you know, we have a large body of water in the shock area, right? I am told that that body of water is about 300 feet deep.
Yes.
It's a very big hole. I think you've seen it.
Yeah,
It's right at the back of
Caribbean Metals.
Of Caribbean Metals. Very, very deep body of water. When you look at this body of water, the level always remains the same.
Which means that the water is coming in somewhere.
So it means that it's
because you have evaporation.
Right. So it means that it's been
I've been watching that for quite some time.
Precisely. What I've been told is that the water may be stratified in the sense that you may have fresh water, brackish water, and seawater, and so on. And because of their densities, they will be at different levels. So they may exist.
So they're now addressing that.
Right.
Okay.
So there is some interest to investigate it.
St. Lucians, this is Open Mic. We're at the end of our second segment. We'll be right back.